Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Sunday. We're going to start with a moment just to ground ourselves, collect our energies, take a moment just to take a breath, do a little sound bath, and just open up with a moment of gratitude.
We're supposed to be hearing the sound bath. We can't hear it.
You can't hear it? Okay, maybe I'll add some voice. Maybe I'll add some afterwards,
Did
add
you
it on
do
top.
that? I was like, it's
Okay, you know
clear.
what? This is probably why I need to use the microphone, use these little microphones. I'm not using the little microphone right now, but because I'm on my computer now. We'll get this all sorted out, figured out later. But that's fine. We just had a moment of
Dead silence.
a moment of dead silence. I had some sound baths, so
That's all that matters. I
you
felt I was
know.
imagining the sound bath energy. I heard a little
That is
faint.
so funny. So you can't hear, you couldn't hear any of that?
It's canceling out the background noise. That's the whole point, I
Okay, yeah, I guess that's what's happening. Okay,
guess.
well, maybe next time, or I'll add some, like I said, I'll add some sound back later. But today we want to just talk a little bit about, um, we want to continue our NPC series in talking about NPC behaviors, how to recognize if you're an NPC, as well as how to reprogram yourself out of NPC-ness,
NPC
um,
hood.
NPC-hood. And it is a hood existence being an NPC. But anyways, and so what I want to talk about today, something that's really been kind of weighing on me, is numbing out, as the culture calls it. And I want to go into, sometimes we don't realize that we're numbing out with certain things. We think that, we're living these high vibrational or high frequency lives, and we're doing all these things, and we're being great. And um, we're really just numbing out. We're numbing out. And numbing out doesn't always just mean, with drugs or alcohol. That's kind of the um,
Stereotypical.
obvious numbing out thing, drugs, alcohol, weed, whatever. But a lot of people numb out. What I really want to focus and talk about is the ways in which people numb out on life. They numb out on relationships, on family, on just filling their plate with so many things that they have no time for themselves, that they have no time to, doesn't allow them time to focus on self, or raising one's vibrations and things of that nature. So um let's first take a minute. And I am now, let's see, last podcast I was in Phoenix. You were in Berkeley, California. Now I am in Madison, Wisconsin. Wisconsin was good. And you are where?
I'm now in Athens, Georgia.
And what are we doing?
We are doing a 1 year internship in the Center for Applied Genetic Technologies, studying plant genetics, CRISPR, genomics, all types of fancy stuff. So
Mhm. All
Very
right.
challenging, very fun, but
At the University of Georgia, go dogs.
go
All
dog.
right.
I mean,
Um, so what do you feel like? I mean, and and when I say and like I said in the last podcast, this is an accountability zone, it's not a judgment zone. So I myself have my numb out tendencies and things that I like to do to numb out or just to not feel what I'm currently feeling. What are your numb out tendencies?
numb out tendencies usually involve usually like sometimes hyperfixating on something, whether that's
Mm-hmm.
like going on a YouTube rabbit hole, social media rabbit hole, scrolling social media,
Oh
normal.
yeah, I forgot about that. The social media numb out.
I
Oh,
was just watching a
that's
video about how
probably the biggest one.
people's lives become more algorithmic. People's even creativity. Like this is kind of a this is very on topic, but it's the whole grindification. All right, the grindification of hobbies and how now you can't just do anything for fun. Everything has to be involved with some sort of content creation, product, some sort of service you're offering, some sort of fan base that you're creating by recording and capturing and sharing your your work, and the fact
Right.
that you're even calling it work instead of just having fun. Like you can't just do anything without
Right,
doc.
you can't just have fun. Yeah, I was telling someone the other day that I am so behind in my social media posts because when I'm doing things, I want to enjoy the moment. If I'm sitting here worried about capturing the moment, I'm not enjoying the moment. I'm worried about
Right.
how this pose or how this image is going to look on social media or getting all these particular photos so that I can, put these things online and kind of missing out on the bigger benefit of the thing. But
And it's hilarious. I just got a new iPhone. And now that I have a new iPhone with a working camera, I use it less because it's just so much. It's just like, well, now I got to spend, an extra 2 minutes doing something just to capture the moment instead of just absorbing it in real
right.
time.
Just enjoying. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm super backed up on
And the
my
idea of being backed up as if
posting.
your social media has to be more updated than your brain, than your
Yeah,
actual body. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's so messed up. But that's all a part of the NPC behavior. This is all part of the NPC hood that we are all taking on as a collective, as
right,
a culture.
right.
As we as
Um, yeah, and it's something that and I'm not sure why I was drawn to really put this particular topic out there, but I guess as with everything else, it's just for awareness so that we understand, what we're doing. But um besides the standard drugs, alcohol, sex, that people typically will numb out on, let's talk a minute about comfort food. We think that food is comfort, so a lot of people numb out on sugar and junk food and things like that.
Well, I think before we get to the food aspect, let's talk about like the idea that too much of any good thing can be a bad thing. And so, even with like social media, even with work, for example, whatever you may be doing for a living, you may numb out with that to a certain extent. Where as long as I continue moving on to the next thing, the next deliverable, the next task, you can keep your mind off of yourself and all the questions that you really have to answer, all the things that you have to deal with when you're, by yourself and you have time to actually think and reflect. That's why we numb out all the way until we pass out at the end of the night. And part of that process includes food. And so if you're going from one thing to the next, a lot of times we spend half our day worried about what we're going to eat, how we're going to prepare our food. And we get to a point where obviously we know we need to eat, but most of the time we don't need to eat. So we need to fulfill ourselves and nourish ourselves. But a lot of the times, the act of eating is what's the numbing part, not even really what the food is. So even if you're eating something healthy, even if you're eating something good, there's still a mentality that you go into the process of eating with that can be very detrimental and very toxic. And you can go into it the same way
Mm,
you do any other drug. But because it's food, it's looked at as a necessary point of your day, 2 to 3
mm,
times per day for a lot of people.
right.
So it can be,
How many times a day do you think we really actually need to eat? I know
um,
we've been programmed to believe that we need 3 meals a day, and if you're working out trying to lose weight, you need 5 meal. They went something about 5 meals a day or five small, that type of thing. What's the
well,
real deal?
there's layers to it because there's two levels of programming. There's obviously the 9 to 5, the productivity programming that kind of puts you in this habit of needing to fuel yourself before you go, halfway through, and then when you get done. But then there's also the habitual aspect of wanting to use it as a tool to keep you going and having to stay on this high, whether it's a sugar high from caffeine, because this is all food too. People just think of the meal. We got to think about the Starbucks in the beginning of the day, the sugary drinks, you know what I'm saying? The candy, all these things are linked together into your into what your cells are actually what you crave throughout the day. Because how you start your day is usually gonna, you know, repeat itself. It's a cycle that you go through. And so depending on what type of lifestyle you're living, I would give you a different answer. I would say most people don't need to eat as much as they do, but once you start, you kind of do need to. Because if you don't, then you're gonna have those cravings, you're gonna have that lightheadedness. So it's like me telling a diabetic that they don't need insulin. Well, it's like you didn't need it, but now you do because you put yourself in such a position. So I mean, most people could go and just eat once or twice. I mean, for me, I eat twice a day. Um, that's usually it's probably just one main meal.
Hmm.
Usually my, midday meal is, maybe like a peanut butter jelly sandwich, some fruit, maybe some chips, maybe some, some pretzels.
Eating peanut butter and jelly, Bubba?
Oh yeah, I'm back on the
That what I
peanut.
like?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Some real nice jelly with some wholesome peanut butter. It's very fulfilling. Hmm.
Okay.
Keeping it simple, you know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Okay.
And so that's another thing I run into a lot too. This is probably a side conversation from the numbing, but the judgment that is around food that a lot of people feel as well. And that kind of goes into why people eat a lot as well, because it's like, you aren't eating? Oh my gosh, what's wrong? Are you are you feeling out? Are you okay? And I notice if you don't want to eat lunch when everybody else is eating lunch, you're not craving to eat right now. You're not.
Well, one thing that brings up something to my mind that I think about with numbing out is that and not when just as a segue on food, one thing I've noticed, especially with the judgment part on food, whether you're eating or not eating, is that food has become a huge part of like our social settings. Like we can't really have events or things or gather together without having food in the mix, or nobody wants to come if there's not gonna be any food there. And it's
Right.
not because they're hungry, it's not because they can't
Nothing to
find
do with
anything to
that.
eat, it's because they need to numb out in that situation. They're not comfortable, and food creates this
Desire to socially gather. We can talk about it. We can experience everything at the same time. There's a reason why you wait. You pray before you eat. If we're all praying and spiritually, um, I guess, enforcing some type of abundant energy on this food, and then we eat it together, then we have some type of, relationship now because we've experienced this thing together. Whether you created it, whether you made the food and I came to your house to enjoy it, whether you grew it, all these different things historically that have created a social environment. But now,
yeah, somehow breaking bread together is like a
yes,
thing,
yes.
but it's not really a thing. I
Well, I mean,
mean,
I feel like on a primitive side, yes. If you're sharing food with people, they probably have a deep connection. You probably have a deep connection with them that is very contingent upon your survival in the world. Being able to hunt, gather, scavenge, grow food, whatever. But now we're at this point where food is so, I don't want to use, yeah, I would say transactional and so just snap of a finger, you can throw it away. Those interactions can be, I guess designed with food at the center, at the core of it. You know what I mean? And so that gives people like you said, an incentive to show up and actually be excited because there's something to be excited for. Because
yeah.
we're not excited to see each other. We're not excited to have social interaction that isn't contingent upon the alcohol, food. Um,
So what do you think? So this numbing out that happens in all these social settings, everywhere we go, everything we do, what do you think people are numbing out from? Because usually you want to numb out because you don't want to feel what you're currently feeling. You want to feel something different. So what are people feeling these days that makes them need to feel something different? Like what happened to like I don't it's very rare nowadays. I don't have you ever met someone that was just quote unquote high on life that was just really high vibrational? Like it just seems like all this numbing out is just a really low vibrational activities to avoid coming to terms with ourselves.
well, I feel like the numbing out is like I said, it's habitual. So it's a habit that you do small increments. So every time you get on your phone to scroll, you obviously every time you eat, you're not numbing out. But when you eat and you do certain things in combination with that, whether it's when you feel down or you need to watch something when you eat, or you can't do certain things without another thing because you can't, your brain is forcing itself to split. You know what I mean? There's like a divergence that's already happening. So if your
Mhm.
soul is telling you you want to do one thing, but you know you shouldn't be doing it, you're probably going to try to distract yourself while you're doing it. So if you know you shouldn't be eating this food, I can't just sit here, stare at my food, and just chew it and eat
And
it.
eat it in good conscience. I have to have
No,
something
I'm gonna
else.
distract myself.
I have
And
to have
so,
the TV on or the radio on, or
right, or I need to enjoy with
that's
other
another big
people.
numb out too,
Yeah, yeah,
is television, Netflix. And don't get me wrong, I love my Netflix, but if you're that type of person that from sun up to sundown, you can't come in the house, you can't do anything without having the TV on or having some noise in the background, that's a form of numbing out. That's a
and
form of
part of it is
NPC
also
behavior.
not even just NPC behavior, it's lonely behavior. That's what it is as well. And
Mm,
being lonely isn't necessarily an NPC thing. That's a normal thing, but not being able to cope with it, because a lot of times what we have now with these devices is it's always here. If you feel happy, sad, if you feel insecure, you can share it. If you feel lost, yeah, they got maps on this joint. You know what I mean? 5G. You can get to anywhere. You can ask ChatGPT anything you want. And anytime you feel any type of discomfort, whether it's because you don't know something, or like even if you miss somebody, you can always get to it. And it has such a universal application to it, it can kind of become a crutch. Um, or even if it's a good thing. So I feel like what people are numbing out from is the divergence in their between their brain, their mind, their spirit, their soul, whatever, and knowing that they kind of need to be answering the call on this side. But if I can drown it out with some noise on this side, then and I'll be in the middle. And
just out of balance, like nothing's in balance.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got television, we've got food, we've got noise. What about relationships?
Yeah.
I've noticed that I've had some conversations recently with people who, have you ever met those people who are just always in a relationship, cannot cannot be by themselves, um, or settle in relationships, focus on relationships because it keeps them from having to focus on themselves or to do their own,
Yeah.
internal work, focus on someone else's, and it's not even just focusing on someone else. You have some people who are, they feel like they're always drawn to these people that they have to fix, or they have to be this savior in the relationship. And I feel like a part of that is numbing out on the fact that you need to be fixing yourself. And you need to be focusing on yourself. Even the light worker community, even people, I mean, even all the people that walk around talking about light and love and this and that and spreading on this. Some people are avoiding their own work. I'm going to focus on healing other people. And so I don't have to, heal myself. I don't have to focus on myself. But and that's one thing you have to be really careful about too. If you do go to um, metaphysical type healers and practitioners, uh, there are some that, you just have to be careful about the energy because you don't want a person, you don't want to, if you see somebody who appears to be like the unhealed, I always call it the unhealed healer. Um, that's not the person you really want because really all they're doing is just infusing their unhealed energy um into you. And like I said, hyper fixating on other people's situations. You have those people that do that are always fixated on someone else's situation, always in someone else's business, and not focusing at all on, and not taking accountability for themselves. So
And part of
um,
it too, I feel like is the more you need to fix your own shit, the more you're gonna be worried about how much other people need to fix their shit. And you could be 100% right about these things. No one's saying that you're wrong, that they're not wilding out, that they don't need to get their shit together. But the fact that you know more about what they need to get together than yourself is what's the problem. I feel like you should know yourself more than you know anybody else. And before your own child, before your own mother, father, your husband, wife, sister, brother, I don't care who. You need to know yourself because that's the only person that ever will. And so, yeah, I feel like that is a mechanism. It's like I know I need to fix something, so I'm going to fix something else. Like I know my house is falling apart, but at least I'm fixing somebody's house. Even if it's for free, it has nothing to do.
Mhm.
I'm going down to my neighbor's house to cut their grass, and I live in a jungle. Like,
Right. And that's kind of a, and that's such a great analogy of fixing someone else's grass while you live in a jungle, because there are so many people who
your mess has
um
become so large, a lawnmower can't cut down a jungle. But their shit is,
yeah,
somewhat maintainable, so you could just, you know,
and people are like you said, so hyper fixated on someone else, fixing someone else, healing someone else, giving someone else advice. I tell people all the time, it's easy to give advice, it's really hard to take it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
uh
most people can see what other people need. It's kind of easy from the outside. But once you actually get into the mix, yeah, I mean, that's why I don't solicit advice that I'm not ready for, and I try not to give any out either. Um, shit's precious.
it
People
is.
will numb out listening to your advice and not take none of the shit.
And not do anything, just to,
Right.
just to
But it
get that
feels good
comfort in the
listening to good
moment.
advice.
In the moment. Right, 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 right.
It
Then
feels
you also have those people who another way to numb out when you're not happy with yourself, with your life, is this what we call main character energy, or
good.
main character persona,
Oh. Oh.
where we create, we build an avatar
Situation.
persona of this thing, this person, this alter ego, as we say. And that's the life we live. We live this life and we pretend like everything is all good, everything's great, I'm winning, and you may be, it's not to say that you're not, but 9 times out of 10, when a person is constantly pushing forward this energy, this persona, or even like so we see it a lot on social media, the more a person is trying to tell you, oh, my life is great, oh, my relationship is great, the more it's probably trash. You know what I mean? The more it's probably like falling to pieces. And I mean, I don't know if it's a, I don't want to call it a fake it till you make it kind of energy with people like faking on social media, but or and not even just on social media, just in real life. I have friends and some people in my life that um they just lie all the time. And and it's okay. As an intuitive, I can always kind of pick up on when, when stories don't align with, with the truth of the current reality or the current timeline.
Mhm.
Um but that's a way of numbing out for them, is just straight up pretending to be someone else, or to have all these things going on. I don't know if it's more of an ego thing, um or just trying to escape this feeling of not being worthy or not being enough. I'm not sure where all of that where all of that comes from.
I feel
But
like
that main character energy, um yeah, it's like a costume. It's like people just wearing a costume. And you know what? And if that's what you came here to do, if you came here to wear a costume and just pretend, all they say, all the world's a stage. This is your simulation. This is your time to shine, your time to be. But just be real with yourself. I mean, you can fool most of the people most of the time. I don't know what that saying is, but you
yeah,
can't
you
fool
can
all
fool
the
most.
people all the time.
Okay. You can't fool me none of the time. That's
You
usually how.
can't fool me none of the time. And that's why sometimes I have over my lifetime have sometimes had difficulty interacting with certain human avatars, because or not difficulty interacting, they may not have wanted to interact with me, because, in interacting with me, they feel exposed. They
Right.
are unable to, continue to play this role. Interacting with me means that you're going to have to level up spiritually and consciously. You're gonna have to take accountability.
Well,
And everybody's
you
just
can't be in the dark.
yeah,
When
everybody's
you get
just
around
not
people
ready.
like us, we're like shining lights. We're like getting by the sun. You know what I mean? So now
Right.
you're showing all the crevices and skeletons back there that you don't want people to
Slip,
see.
as the old people say, your slip is showing. It's hanging out from the bottom of your dress. Your slip is
Yeah.
showing. Tighten up. Um, so yeah. I'm trying to fix my display here. I keep looking. I'm sorry. I keep looking up. I'm
No,
trying
you're
to
good.
fix this display
So yeah,
so I can.
part of the outward expression of a character, an idea, or some attribute, whether it's like bravado as a man or brat energy or you know some type whatever queen energy, all these different ideas are usually a reflection of what you're either lacking on the inside or you're striving for. And those aren't necessarily bad things, you know what I'm saying? Because if you feel like you're lacking in something in life, instead of numbing out, why not take it head on? And if I feel like I'm not who I want to be, let me just create this whole other identity on the other side of the spectrum, and hopefully you find somewhere in the middle. But a lot of times people burn out, and it's not really a sustainable way of maybe addressing some of your issues. Because what you're kind of trying to do is change how we see you on the outside, but not how you feel on the inside. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times I feel like the numbing out part is more internal. It's less external. But what we see on the outside is usually the mess. You know what I mean? The nonsense. So it just looks bad. But like on the inside, that's where the real games are played.
Yeah.
And that's where
No, I
fighting
get.
every day. So every choice you make, every time you wake up in the morning and when the sun
And
comes,
and it can be difficult because there are times in our lives where we are kind of because of the societies we live in, because of colonization, all these different things, there are times when we have to kind of numb out and wear these masks, at jobs. It's kind of like um that saying knowing how to act. In different scenarios, we are required to act different ways. We're never really, and that becomes difficult too, because we're never really able to show up in all situations and circumstances as our authentic self.
no.
We always have to put on a
So
mask. We always have
yeah.
to, fit in to, we always have to have what they call situational awareness.
And I feel
And
like
that can be difficult.
part of that bringing your whole self is never really what they want. They want you to bring um, some parts that you may leave, but not all. You know what I mean? And so when you get around your friends, your family, when you get around homies from back in the day, you get around certain people that you work with, you all get different sides. And hopefully, if you have a diverse group of people around you, you can get to all sides of yourself in a week or a month. But that's not really realistic. And if you move to a new place or you spend a lot of time in an environment that's not really suited for you, even if it's your own home, you live with people that, don't really want to see you flourish and see all sides of yourself, especially if it doesn't fit their own boundaries. And that can force
Hmm.
you to you're forced to numb out in your own space. And that's one of the worst things. We
Yeah.
spend most of our time at work and at home in the bed. So if those two spaces aren't, welcoming, mental unwellness is going to ensue. And that's why I
Yeah.
mean, getting back to that, why is America so unwell conversation that started this whole kick, that's it right
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the other numbing out too. And seeing all these things, like we've set up all these things in society to attract our attention, to be solutions for all these things. And like I know, like today, I woke up today and I had a lot of really heavy energy. And the whole day I kept trying to find something to do to relieve this heavy energy. At first I wanted to, I don't know. I wanted to go have brunch on Lake Michigan and go have me some mimosas, and I went the alcohol. I wanted to go the alcohol route. Um, and then it was like, okay, maybe I'll find me a psychic reading. Maybe I'll find a healer. Maybe I'll find that, I'll go, let me find this,
find all
this
these things
bar.
outside of you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking, and even even in looking for a healer, psychic, I was like, let me go find this crystal shop. I love crystal shops. Let me go, that's my happy place. So, and even when I got to the crystal shop, they were closed. Like everything I tried to do today to help myself that was outside of myself was stopped. Everything I was not able to accomplish, or and even like, okay, so when I got to the little bar that I thought I wanted to go to, when I got there, I was just like, this just ain't there. I kept arriving. I did a lot of driving around today and arriving in a lot of different places and realizing like, this ain't what I want. And so, and it kept saying, and even I even tried to go online, like let me find somebody online that can do a reading, help me do an energy clearing. And not one thing today, not one thing. I think I left my hotel room about 9:30 this morning. And what time is it now? 8 o'clock, 7 something. I don't know, but not one thing has worked out to allow me to numb myself out. I had to go within. I had to just, get my sage, just sit with it. And it wasn't even because I wasn't going to be able to clear the energy out. That was the thing. I had to sit with it. I had to sit with it. I had to feel it, and I had to let it move through me. Even if it takes a few tears, let it run out, or whatever. But the universe was not going to allow me not on today anyway, to numb out. And I had to, but that was the lesson that it taught me, was that because I was really like, oh, I just got to find somewhere, something, somebody to help me. I needed so I felt like I needed some support, but the support that I had to find was the support that I found within myself. I had to pull that support and sovereignty from within. So, and it ain't easy. It ain't easy. So that's
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing you said, that has to go through you. And whenever you say like I'm going through some ish, it's I'm going through some ish. I'm not stopping at the ish and looking at it, standing outside the
yeah.
door, waiting for it
You
to
have to
let me
go
like
on
be
through
going
it.
through it. And so whenever something comes on your brain, it comes to your mind and it sits on it, and then you try to numb out from it, it's gonna sit there and it creates this pressure over
And
time.
it'll keep, and the more you try to ignore something, the more you
It
try
gets
to numb
heavier.
out from it, the more it's going to keep knocking at your door. The point in this life, in this simulation, is to be able to find balance. It's not to ignore all these things that I don't like and focus on these things over here that I do like. We've got to find that balance. And so um for me and some other light workers and other people, oftentimes we have what you call spiritual numbing, where we go and you want to find readings, you want to find it, you want to, or obsessions with rituals, and even the obsession with sometimes burning sage and doing all these external things. These are really just things that we are supposed to use as kind of like guideposts, as thing to kind of bring us back to center, but they're not the cure all. It's your mind and it's your intention that creates the cure for whatever the situation is. It's not the sage doesn't clear my energy. It's the intention that I have when I light the sage and when I burn the sage that clears the energy. The sage itself is external to me. The sage is just a vibration. It's not even a thing.
And what it does too is because it has this unique physical characteristics. I see sage, I recognize sage, I have this thought, I have this energy that I bring to the sage, and the sage brings back to me. When the person grew it, they had this energy. When the person delivered it, when they sold it to me, it had this intention behind it. So these things keep multiplying to where it finally gets into your hands and it's time for you to do something with it. You know what I mean? The seeds have been grown, plants have been grown for hundreds of thousands of years, and eventually you get this one in your hand. What are you going to do with it? It could sit there in a packet for 10 years, or you can start a whole farm. You know what I mean? And so, whatever intention you have with it, how serious are you about this? So, with the
Right.
sage, it gives you a time, like you said, to have a ritual in which you take a few moments, open the windows, you move about, you think about all these little things in your home that need to be cleared, all these places that, energy stores and builds up. And probably places where you numb out, that chair that you sit on every time you watch Netflix, where you eat your food, where you sleep at night, where you bathe and wash off the day.
That corner of the couch, whatever.
That corner of the couch with a little divot in it, you know what I mean?
Should have
Clear
worn
that off. You feel me? Clear it off. And
that
it could
sagging couch cushion that your ass don't want to hold into.
because the idea, there's nothing wrong with these things, just being aware of it and understanding um the role it
But
plays.
what is it that people are running from? You think it's just the work? It's just doing the work on self? Like, are people, because there are some people who and you know me, I'm a person, I most of the time when I'm driving in the car and things like that, I'm typically driving in silence. But
Mhm.
there are some people that can, I don't know if this is, if we want to categorize this as NPC behavior, but certain people cannot sit in silence. They cannot sit with themselves. Um,
Well, the thing is, too, a lot of people can sit with themselves if they're doing something. So you see how, like, I can not do anything and listen to music or watch TV, or I can be doing something and be in silence, but I need to be doing something so that my brain is not just sitting with all the random things that come to it. Like if
there
I'm,
has to be a distraction of some kind.
yeah, but we don't
Your brain can't wholly focus on what is going on in the moment.
right, right. And so whenever you get a stimulus and that's why that whole stimulus deprivation thing is so important for honing in on yourself because it forces you, the only thing that you're thinking about is what's already inside of you. You know what I mean? It's a reflection of what's inside. When you're always taking something in, you're outside in the world, talking to people on your phone, reading
Mhm.
something, you're getting everything from the outside world. And so your entire existence up here,
And you're getting out of your validation too. You're feeling like, and that's one thing I've noticed about some people is that some NPCs, that their whole self-worth, their validation is external to them. It's what they're doing for their job, how much money they're making, who their is, what their spouse is doing, that type of thing. It
and
seems
usually
like
other people that are usually high on life, their metric for success is happiness, peace, joy, health, how much sleep I'm getting, how much weight I'm losing, how much stronger I'm
how I'm
becoming,
glowing, how I'm
right?
looking.
Or the friendships I have, the
And see, and
attraction.
what I've noticed is that and I was actually talking to a friend of mine yesterday, um, and this person feels like they are living I guess what you would say a high vibrational life, but and not to be judgmental, but
Exactly what we're doing.
one
Let's
I'm
just be
about to judge.
honest.
But I think that there's some confusion about high vibrational frequencies and having matrix success. You know what I mean? Like
No,
you can
no.
have a great job, you can have a lot of money, you can meet a lot of success in the matrix, but that too is a form of like numbing out. Having matrix success, focusing on money, career, these things, those are forms of numbing out from spirituality. And it really, at the end of the day, it's actually a lower vibrational frequency because you have to work so hard and do so much to get it and to maintain it. Like,
To
and
be the
it takes
devil's
so much
advocate, I feel
time
like getting
away
matrix
from
success is
life.
not the issue. If you're not focusing and hyper, like I said, hyper fixating on that and it comes to you, that's different. I feel like if you're focusing on yourself, you're moving in purpose and you end up achieving success and things end up coming to you, I feel like that's perfectly fine. But there's a
Yeah,
form of numbing out that brings you away from your spirituality and your own personal development in exchange for that success. I feel like you
right.
can have both, or you can be moving in one area and other things can come to you. But a lot of times, in order to achieve the higher levels of matrix success, corporate success, you usually have to put a large portion of yourself aside. And that's what leads to the mental unwellness. Even if
Mhm.
for a short period you end up being happy and you get that
And
thing.
that's when, and those types of things, or even like, numbing out, let's say, relationships. Oh, I can't be by myself, or I am afraid to be alone. That's fear. You're making decisions. If you're making decisions based on like being afraid to be alone, being afraid of not having lack and things like that, those are low vibrational decisions, and out of that low vibrational results will occur. Um and what a lot of people will realize too is that when they settle, um a lot of times earlier in life, people will settle for relationships, things that they think or perceive at that time will bring them stability or will bring them happiness. And then later down the road, as they do start to grow, they will realize that all of this was just, you're just going through the motions, and a lot of it ends up just being empty calories, and you feel unfulfilled, you feel unhappy, and like I said, now you're living out of obligation or potentially opportunity, depending on, just wanting to have that stability. And so ultimately you will ultimately crash out. That's another form of numbing out. You're, like I said, you're just going through the motions, and you're not being present with yourself, with your
And
emotions, with how you really feel.
misery loves company. So if you're with someone and you're in a relationship and you're able to share these same experiences because you live in the same place, probably
Mhm.
make the same amount of money, probably have the same type of upbringing, you have the same type of perspective.
Trauma bonds are a thing.
Even if there's no trauma that you all have had, there's just a certain level of familiarity that allows you to numb out with the person more and deeper because you have this sort of relationship that is bound and based upon a very similar experience. And so your urges, your cravings, all these things kind of mirror and reflect on each other. And
Yeah.
so it's all
But
good.
then eventually somebody grows out of that,
I was going to say,
and paths start to diverge,
you're both
or
in
you
it.
have what you find in a lot of cases, with adults, like I said, if you do this at an early age, then in midlife, a lot of times they call it the midlife crisis. It's not really a crisis, it's just
It's an awakening.
your avatar is realizing that this ain't it. This programming, whatever life you've built, to try to distract from what it is you're really supposed to be doing with your life, is just that. And like I said, you start living based out of obligation. Now you've got family, you've got kids, you probably got, you've built up this life. And that's why that's what I meant when I said earlier about people numb out on, they build a family life that they numb out on, and use that as a reason to escape, or not to do the inner work that we're here to do.
Yeah, and I would argue too, a lot of times when you see the quote unquote people that are labeled with midlife crisis, they're just going outside the box now. They're just doing things that they buying the slingshots, the Corvettes, they're, dipping out. I got an empty nest, so I'm out vibing. And so it seemed that
They're doing something that they feel like is going to stimulate them. They're wanting this,
right.
and that's the other thing. With NPC behavior and people who do all these things, people numb out on, that was the last thing I want to talk about. Retail therapy is what a lot of people numb out to, on purchasing things, buying things. Like somehow this
Accumulation.
brings some satisfaction. And the way that, now, of course, we have to have certain things in order to live and function. But if you're buying things, and you'll know it's NPC behavior when it's never enough. You know what I mean? So you got a great car, nice car, but you got to keep getting another car. You got a nice, amazing house, but you got to keep getting another. That's when you know that it's not just that, oh, I just want this for success purposes. You've got what you need, but you're still trying to get more, trying to get more. That's when you know that's a NPC behavior of the numbing out, because you're never satisfied, and it'll never be enough.
And usually how it works is because given it the car analogy, most cars, like even the hooptiest of hoopties, functionally turns left, turns right, forward and backwards, and it parks. They all pretty much do the same thing. No matter how much money the car costs, to a certain point, massage seats, cooled seats, it got the curtains, Maybach, the stars in the roof, it still does the same thing. So you can try to argue that there's a reasoning for it, but it's really for your own personal um I don't know what the word I mean
The ego,
it's
it's
an
ego
accumulate
satisfaction.
but it's the satisfaction of accumulating something and making something yours and taking it in your possession. Because I feel like another thing too that kind of created this as well is the idea of ownership. And whether it's with people, like I own the person that I'm in a relationship with, the family, as a man, this is my family, this is my domain, this is my land, this is my country.
Right, because what does ownership equal? It equals control.
Exactly. And so now that I bought this car, now I have control of it. Now I can do what I want to. Now that I have this house, I can change this. I can put a fence up. I can put signs up. If you come on my land, I'm gonna shoot your ass. You know what I mean? Like,
I have power. I can buy things. I have buying power,
right, right. I
which
can
isn't
move
really
things.
power, but it's. but okay.
Right. You have access to move a good from one owner to the next. You know what I mean? And that's why the whole idea of, side note for economics purposes, the idea of stimulus is not to stimulate you, it's to stimulate the collective, homie. They
It's
don't
to
care about
stimulate
you.
the economy.
They
Yeah.
don't care about you.
They give you that money so you can go
Speaking of
put it
buying some
right back
toilet
into the
paper and
economy.
eggs, the toilet paper and eggs ain't gonna last more than 2 months with all them kids you got run up in the house. And you're gonna be right back in the same position tomorrow. So
Yeah, some people, yeah, that's one thing I noticed when I was younger. A lot of young people who had trauma, they wanted to have kids. They really wanted babies, and I think it was to so they could focus
they're
their
that inner
attention
child.
on another person and not have to deal with their
Yes.
own trauma
Yep.
or whatever they had going on.
And you notice how a lot of people, I feel like it's those people that be like, "Oh, I didn't do nothing good, but I had my kids." You know, like I didn't do nothing right besides having this other
Mhm.
life. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because a lot of people have struggle, and then when they have that kid, they have this revelation. But at the same time, there is a unhealthy, and a lot of times it's more so with the woman, unfortunately, because the women oftentimes will see a child as an opportunity to nurture and kind of heal themselves. Whereas men a lot of times are more afraid of that. You know what I mean? They know that they need to get their stuff together before they have that child. And so it can cause a lot of, mental and wellness on both sides. And that leads like the postpartum conversation. And that's a whole nother form of numbing out that a lot of, women struggle with after, having a child. And that could be very um difficult because a lot of people don't understand that. You know what I mean? Especially their partner. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you navigate something that most people haven't experienced?
Yeah, I never experienced any postpartum. Likely, I don't really.
Yeah.
Um,
Like your attention, I mean,
I
who
mean, to me, it just seems like that just comes from an imbalance of
but most people are
I'm not
imbalanced.
gonna say making a bad decision on having the kid, but maybe feeling like having the kid was going to do something different for you than it actually did.
There's an internal conflict. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe thought maybe having the kid was gonna make you feel a certain way, and when that doesn't happen, you don't know, I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Oh man,
I'm
I'm
not a
probably gonna
healthcare
get canceled for this.
mental wellness
I'm probably
professional.
gonna get canceled for this, but I'm gonna go out on a limb because we haven't. This is not being live streamed. But I would try to kind of equate that to this thing like post nut clarity, like after you have sex and you realize like, oh, I didn't really
Wait,
like.
what?
Yes, this is a thing.
You
It's
said
called
what? You said
post.
post net clarity?
Yes,
What?
this.
I can't.
This is a real thing. This is a real thing.
Hold on, let me write this down. Hold on. Post net clarity.
Yes, yes. It goes not just with men, women too. It's just a thing. Like after you orgasm, after you release, after
You
you
just have this sudden clarity. It just clears your energy, clears your
yeah,
mind.
or you masturbate, whenever you do anything that's because it's in your brain, it's dirty, it's lustful, and then once you're done, it's like, oh, you're
We
actually
gotta put that on the thumbnail for this podcast. Post net clarity.
that's part of numbing out sex. That's a big like we have to bring it full circle. So post nut clarity. Let me break this down because we're getting off topic. Post nut clarity is the phenomenon of come on. I need you to bring it back.
Okay. I'm sorry. You're messing me up here. Okay, go
Hear
ahead.
ye,
Go
hear
ahead. Post nut
ye.
clarity. Let's go.
Post-nut clarity is the phenomenon of getting a wave of clear mind, clear thinking, rational thinking after having sex, having an orgasm, or maybe having a drug binge. We can relate it to other forms of numbing out.
Because what happens when you orgasm? There's like this release of
Yes, tension,
energy.
buildup, energy. What's the
And is
word?
that what clogs the mind? Is that what prevents the clarity, that clog up of energy?
Yes. So when a lot
So
of
so you
people
can masturbate for clarity.
no. No,
No.
no, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is,
Okay.
listen. So whenever people have sexual
This
energy,
is getting good. This is getting
unhinged sexual energy, right? When you feel like you got to get your rocks off, that's
good. Okay.
usually your sacral chakra having a buildup of energy, and that's you wanting to be creative. That's you wanting to, because if you want to have sex, what is that? Creation, procreation. So you really need to go paint. You
And
need
when
to go.
you say this built up, you mean like blue balls.
Yes, yes, basically, yes, yes. Because blue balls is when you're and the act of having sex, but then you don't get that release. So now all that buildup is right there on the edge, and you're just like, it's like painful. But when you're not having sex and you just,
And
or you,
before you have that reason to be all confused and just don't even know what to
yeah,
do
and you're
with
just,
yourself.
you're out here just having sex with anything. You'll talk to anybody. People start looking better than they do because you've been, it's like being locked up in the prison, but like, you're not getting no booty. So now you get out and it's like, I don't care what it is. If it's walking, it's getting knocked down. And so, but once you have that first nut, you have that clarity. It comes back. You're like, oh God,
Hold
I
on, let me
can't do
put
that
my
anymore.
hair. Let me pull my hair back for this.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So this is the
Uh,
real thing. I mean, maybe you haven't experienced it, but yes, people will have sex and just be like, "Oh yeah, nah, like we're not doing that." Or you start to realize there were things that you were struggling with, that weren't really you. Like you're not you when you're hungry, but like same thing with sex, or like, you
if
know,
you haven't had a good nut, you're not you, and if you haven't had a good nut either.
right. And that's why the whole. Have you heard of No Nut November? Yes, we're coming up on the
No.
fall. So No Nut November is a collective decision that
I've heard
the
of dry January where people like don't want to drink after the new year.
same thing. So dry January is like a New Year's resolution.
Uh-huh.
Thing. But No Nut November is like a pre for the holidays. Let's clear our systems. Let's not masturbate, have sex. Let's not bust any nuts throughout this month.
So we can be confused.
No, so you can retain
Because
that
I thought
energy.
the post nut, I thought the
No,
clarity
no, no, no,
comes
no,
with
no,
the
no,
post
no.
nut after you
So,
bed.
so when I say post nut clarity, I'm not saying that the nut is what's giving you the clarity. I'm saying that because you're going down into the depths of whatever you're doing down in the sheets, once you get that, like, it's like you're going down and the nut just like, okay, now you're back to baseline. But you didn't have to go down there. You see what I'm saying? But you couldn't hold on to your urges. You couldn't just, you know what I'm saying, abstain. And so you ended up doing something that you probably didn't really want to do. So the post nut clarity, to make
You
this
realize
very,
you shouldn't have nutted in that moment, or you
you
shouldn't
shouldn't
have.
have been doing whatever you were doing in the first place.
It's like when the lights at the club come on.
Yes, exactly. But instead, it's internal. So
You've been
the,
talking to this person all night long, all in their vibe and everything. Then the
yeah,
lights come on, and you realize,
but you actually like their vibe, but now you're seeing this external thing, which is their face that you may not necessarily want to be
or
associated
you're
with.
numbed out on alcohol. So
Right. But the post nut clarity is like you, because you've had such a buildup and you have so much of these urges and you're unbalanced. Once you start doing what you're doing, once you have that nut, you automatically kind of just go back to your baseline. You're like, oh shit, what was I doing? You know what I mean? But it's not that the nut itself is the benefiting aspect of it. It's just that once you get done with it, it's like, oh shit, now you're looking at your actions with a very clear, um, set of bifocals.
go
Very,
back to being pure and wholesome after
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So you put your phone away, you put the lotion away, you put your toys away, and that's what it is. Post nut clarity. It's a real thing. It's a real phenomenon. Both genders, sexes experiencing it. It's a common thing because once you have that release, your brain and your energy is now able to flow in a much better way. But what I'm saying is the No Nut November is a practice to balance that because you should be able to not have sex for a month, 2 months, 3 months without losing your mind or without doing things that you shouldn't be doing. And so the No Nut November is like, I'm going to intentionally do this instead of doing whatever I'm doing, whether it's having sex, being lustful. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to read. I'm going to pick up some other hobby. So when I feel stressed out or I feel like I'm lonely or something, I can redivert that energy. And so when I go back to doing whatever I'm doing, because it's not like the sex is the bad thing, it's the addiction and the
Or
crutch.
during, okay, so we'll tell everybody. So maybe I'll offer a discount during known for Reiki services during No Nut November, so people can come and
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah.
And what you can focus on is rebalancing your lower chakras in quotation marks. Because obviously all seven are important, but your sacral chakra is going to get some, you know what I mean? No happy endings, of course, but yeah.
Oh, you talking about at the Reiki? Oh,
No, I'm saying
shoot.
like you want to say like we're trying to rebalance your energy, but no happy endings. Like don't think this is like no November, but you gonna get, you know what I mean? Like people are crazy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
But once you
no.
start, introducing, no November in your shit, you might want to be very explicit.
Well, and what is this? We're almost at September,
Yeah.
so we got time to mark it for.
Yeah, you can
All
ask
right,
Chad to
let
make
me
you a
write this
flyer or something.
down. No Nut November discount. Okay. Um. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, and I feel like this is a really natural and organic way we flow into this numbing out because this is probably the highest form of numbing out that most people are reaching. Whether it's you go outside, you get dressed up, you get cute, you post on Instagram, social
Sex is
media,
the easiest way to
right?
numb out.
And a lot of times, what
Easiest
you're
way.
doing is leading up to having sex, leading up to I'm going to get drunk so I don't feel as bad, so I can just say I can talk to all the ladies and I can just not feel as bad for what I'm doing. I'm out with my girls, hot girl summer. You know what I mean? All these things we numb out on different levels. So that's why once we reach this climax, it's like, hey, and you fall right back down the next week. And so that's this kind of, you know, you numb
Okay.
out all week through work, or you don't numb out, and then you get to the weekend. It's
And
like
when the weekend comes, you numb out through alcohol, sex, drug party, whatever people
eating
do on the
booty,
weekend.
whatever you do.
But how many, like, and that's one thing I always ask people, like, how many people actually have a set day or time or allotment of time that they spend with themselves, just by themselves, without other people, family, and not as a byproduct of, oh, I'm just happen to be alone, I'm driving somewhere, or I'm,
Yeah,
whatever, I just happen to not have any kids around me, but
it's
intentional.
your time.
Yeah, I'm intentionally taking this time. Like for me, Sundays is typically my day to do me. My communication fast, if I decide to do that, outside the podcast stuff. But um I'm still tripping on the post nut clarity, but okay.
No, I mean we can get
Yeah,
back.
we
We can
we
revisit
might get
that.
some questions on that. We might get
Yeah,
some
no, I mean it's a real thing.
yeah, because I mean the whole sex thing, and also to the exchange of energy that happens, the creation of soul ties. Maybe that'll be a good next podcast. Is we'll go a little bit deeper into the post nut clarity and the creation of soul ties when you exchange energy or have sex. Um and soul ties are not to be mistaken with soul connections. Because we create ties with people that we don't really have connections to, or that we're not supposed to stay connected to. um so we'll talk about that a little bit. What else? I mean, you didn't really kind of mess me up with this post nut clarity, so I don't
Well,
know
I mean
what
that's kind of the finishing
I
touch
don't really have anything
on.
else to talk about.
That's cool. That's cool. I think that's a good way to end it. We can I think leaving on a post night clarity for next week is perfect. I think it's perfect.
I'm dead.
So thank you for
And
numbing
I
out
was
with
just
me.
thinking that this podcast was getting a little was feeling a little dull this week. Was feeling a little like we didn't have. All right, post nut clarity,
Yeah.
PNC. All
Just
right,
sit on that. Just sit on that. If you're out
just
there,
sit on that. Sit on
yeah.
your post nut
Think
clarity.
about how you felt after some of your, I guess, best experiences. And how and post night clarity, it's not always a negative thing. You can have some revelations after post night clarity, especially if you're not like, you're in a loving Christian marriage and you're doing everything above the books. Even that is still it can be very therapeutic on multiple levels. But obviously, even if you're on the other side and you know you shouldn't be doing it, it can still be very good to kind of bring you back. And so a lot of times you got to go down, what do they call it, rock bottom? It's kind of that. Like post nut clarity is like the bounce off rock
You
bottom.
go to rock bottom, then you have to get your rocks off to come back up from rock bottom.
Yes. Yes. But because the
And so
release,
maybe next week you can talk about the biology associated to, like, what really happens um
well,
with this post nut clarity, or
especially
just
from
the
a man's
energy release
perspective,
that happens.
you're
Because,
releasing.
well, I know that when you think about it, when you think about where the orgasm comes from, like, that is, I guess, where all of our nerve endings, everything, like, at least for the female anyway, all of our nerve endings go to everything about our bodies, our nervous system, everything ends there. Or does it begin there?
So Same, it's the same thing. So like if you're thinking about a
Okay.
continue, if you think about a string or like a ball of yarn, for example, the ball of yarn as a whole was started from one little piece, but it keeps getting longer and bigger and you wrap it around. So when you start to develop as a fetus, your gut and every like your gut in that region is where you start. That's why the gut is the first brain because it literally is the first brain. And then you start to develop your reproductive parts, and then you get the spinal, you get this head, and then you kind of just start to build out from there. But yes, that reproductive region is one of the first, second, third areas that start to develop, or at least the cells that make up that are one of the first, second. Because like the thing is, when you're developing as a fetus, your cells are differentiating in real time. So your nerve cells are becoming nerve cells. Your cardiac cells are becoming cardiac cells. You see how that kind of works? And so,
Of course.
yeah. So, long story short, yes, they start and end there, and so you have a very large release of energy. It's like a conductor. It's like a big, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, electromagnetic, like charging, for example. We're just
So
having
would
this.
you equate having an orgasm with our body's need to like take in deep breaths? You know how like when you're breathing, a lot of our breaths are kind of shallow, but every so often you have to take in this really kind of deep breath to aspirate, I don't know the scientific terms with it, but it seems like because why do things build up that way? Like why do we have to have a sexual release? Like why does that have to happen? Why do people feel so backed up or so
Well, I feel like it's because of how we use our energy nowadays. It's a lot of times it's not in a very, I don't want to say productive because that's a very NPC way of thinking about it. But a lot of times our energy is not, so like we're putting our energy towards things that don't serve us. And so
Mhm.
I feel like way back when we were we had more rituals, we had more spiritual practices that weren't even considered spiritual. It was just our way of life. And so I feel like there was a natural flow of energy coming in and out of our bodies versus now we just put in all this stuff, we take in all this stimulation, and then we end up backed up because we're not releasing in a healthy way, whether that's through grounding, exercise, hugging a tree, singing, dancing, moving about, any of those things. And so the backup is because we're either feeling lonely, we're not active, we're stagnant physically, mentally, we're not mentally releasing, having those, what do we call them? Um, Not a mental purge, but we use another word for like poop. Oh, mental defecation. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Having these
Yeah.
conversations with yourself, quieting yourself. All these things kind of play into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just like our way of life has created an environment for physical stagnation, spiritual stagnation, energetic stagnation. Um, so much static, all these different frequencies, radio, Wi-Fi, 5G, processed food, meat.
All right. Well, one time for post nut clarity.
One
Did you
time,
did you hear the bell? You didn't hear the ding?
I can hear it now
I hear now.
because you're
Okay.
talking at the same time, so it makes
Okay,
sense.
good. Okay, well, all right. I think on that note, we will go ahead and wrap up this episode. And yeah, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so that you'll be the first to get notifications when we post new new videos. I think the next one we definitely need to go into a little bit more detail on this post nut clarity. Yeah.
I almost stuck with you. Thank y'all.
Yep. All right. Good night. Light and love. Namaste. Holla back.